start with the Ukraine. We'll get to Keystone in a moment. There's turmoil there this week. There's the decision to, get away from the EU trade deal, concerns there. Russia seems to be on one side, the biggest trading partner, and of course on the other side is the West, who pretty much seems to want Ukraine to slide closer to the EU. So what do you make of all this? What could be happening here?
It's not a good situation right now for the Ukraine. Actually, reminds me a lot of what Greece went through a couple of years ago with the protests. I mean, let's face it, this conflict is all about prosperity here. Let's get a little background information. Ukraine, about 45 million population. Canada, about 35 million population. Ukraine has about $7,000 GDP per capita, whereas Canada has about $50,000 GDP per capita. To give you a sense of where the country's at. But the reality is, 2 decades ago, the Soviet bloc basically breaks up. And if you take 2 examples, Poland and the Ukraine, pretty much the same size, they were in the same shape. Poland moves towards the EU for the last 2 decades, does government reform, invests in infrastructure. The Ukraine moves towards Russia in the last 2 decades. Still corruption rampant throughout the economy, and a lot of oil coming from Russia very, very cheaply, so they have no need to innovate and invest in their country. And that's basically what we're seeing today. Back in November, the president of the Ukraine did not sign the deal to get closer to the EU side, biasing towards the Russia side, and now you see the protests.
And it's remarkable to see people willing to lay their lives on the line for the kind of freedoms that we enjoy here. Let's go back to XL, Keystone XL. Of course, another delay. How much longer can this really happen? I mean, how much more can we take on this? And how much is this affecting the relationship, the economic relationship between the U.S. and Canada, 2 big trading partners?
Clearly, we can take more delays. I think this is actually the 6th or 7th, maybe, official delay. So, I mean, who knows how long this is going to take. It will affect our relationship with our most important trading partner in the U.S. But the reality of the situation is the oil has to get somewhere. So if it doesn't get to the U.S., is there any other customer around the world that is willing to take our oil from Canada? And I think there is in the case of China.
Well, that's it. And the government has hinted as much, right? They're saying, look, if it's not going to go there, we're going to send it elsewhere. It's either, I guess, take it or leave it, I suppose. Let's talk about the Olympics right now. Of course, Canada has done very well, not only today, but really over the last couple of weeks here. Are there any potential economic benefits for Canada for the successful Games?
Of course there is. More golds, more economy. That's the game. I mean, retrospectively, research has shown that the higher the income GDP of a country, the more medals you're going to get, and we know that this is playing out. But let's talk about after the Olympics. Basically, 2 things. Number 1, Own the Podium is a Sports Canada grant that actually invests in athletes in Canada. The better they do, the more trust they have in the money they're spending in athletes. So the more golds and silvers, bronze that we get, the more investment we're going to give in our athletes in the future. And the second issue is with regards to athletes specifically, the ones that do come home as the sports darlings. Those are the ones that you're going to see in the Cheers commercials and the Tide Box commercials and the Oreo cookie commercials.
All kinds of endorsements, coming for them. Okay, Nick, thanks for that. Appreciate that. Have a good weekend, and I'm sure you'll have that early morning Sunday morning.
Sunday.
Thanks very much.